Hi everyone, welcome to our new episode of our podcast, Beyond Labels. With me today is Nikki Brown. You already know her. Hi Nikki. And we have a special guest today, Paul. Hi Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We are very glad to have you here because the topic that we're going to talk today, it's very, very interesting. But I will let you to explain what you guys do.
Yeah.
Men's talk. And we want to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having us here today. I really, really appreciate that. Because really, what Men's Talk is a health promotion charity, and it's about getting the messaging, particularly for all men, about having the important conversations around their mental health and their well-being. Because as we know, unfortunately, that there are issues when it comes to men's mental health, and the very aspect of knowing that there are safe spaces for men to go to in relation to having the conversations about what it is to be a man today. And it isn't the stereotype that traditionally we have known that men are the ones that have to be the strongest, they have to stand tall in adversity. It is about when it's a time to be vulnerable. And if you are going through something in your life, whatever that might be, that you actually can talk about that, and it's actually perfectly healthy to do that. And Men's Talk is all about, we are men, but more importantly, human beings first. And what makes us different is, from the animal kingdom, is the fact that we have emotions and feelings. So why is it that men can't show them, but women can? And that's the old stereotype and the stigma that's attached to that if a man cries, well, that makes him less of a man. Well, it actually doesn't. And we have to be now, as a society, as in a community, much more open to that whole aspect of it's actually natural to have feelings and to be able to express them.
Yeah. So you hear people all the time, or maybe not so much now, but before was men don't cry.
No.
You know, so your group, this institution is Men's Talk. Who you are, there's here for. So tell us, how long has this Men's Talk group been active?
So we started in 2021, but unfortunately it wasn't due to happy circumstances, because in 2018 I lost 3 friends to suicide, male friends, all in the 1 year. So sitting at those funerals and wondering, and I have an education background, I've been a teacher for over 25 years, and I was just wondering, what are we not doing in this space that we could be doing a lot better, particularly when it comes to fostering better men's mental health? And what I found was, it is about education, it is about awareness, and it's also now time to change the conversation when it comes to this. It isn't about toughen up, princess, as you hear a lot being said.
You do, yeah.
And particularly for men, and whether and that's for all men. And it's really having that better understanding about what that conversation is, and where can we then support those men that are needing that. We are not a rehabilitation service, because that is when it starts to become more about counselling, professional medical help. It's all about getting to the point before it gets to that point. And we have this fantastic quote here by Bishop Desmond Tutu, which is amazing. It's our philosophy for the organisation. At some point, we have to stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and find out why they're falling in. Isn't that what we're looking at and grappling with in mental health, and particularly men's mental health?
Definitely.
We need to be looking at that and saying it's too late almost when they're already in the water. We have to going much further upstream and finding out what the problems and the issues are. And it's not a one-size-fits approach.
Yeah.
And this is what it's been in the past. We'll just brush it over and just go, look, we'll just apply that and that will fit for everyone. I can tell you both that from a men's perspective, we are a charity for all men. Whether it's Indigenous men, whether it is men from a multicultural background, whether it's men with a disability, whether it's a young man, an old man, and everybody in between, it is for all men. And it isn't, you cannot just apply a one-size-fit approach to all of that. You have to be able to provide something that specifically is going to help that particular man in that particular circumstance. It's really important.
Also, I guess, I'm sure that everyone that identifies as a man is welcome.
Absolutely. And the LGBTQ plus community, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
And we have to look at this in a holistic way. It can't be a holistic, but at the same time being able to then identify those men that are having the issues that they are and what those issues are, and then what are the support services that can actually help them. So whatever their background is, or whatever the issue might be a financial issue, it might be something to do with their parenting and being a father for the first time, it might be something to do with relationships, their careers. Looking at it in that sort of holistic framework, I think we then can start to identify what the issues are and then provide the appropriate support for men.
So in your team, what does your team consist of?
So at the moment it's very small. So we have a board of 7, and then I'm the CEO on a daily basis, and then we have various volunteers at the moment that are providing the appropriate connection to community. We do a lot of activations, so we go out into the community. We have a special project with Bunnings that we operate with, which is absolutely amazing. And it's fantastic from the point of view of Bunnings is a place where men are. They love going to Bunnings.
Yeah.
So this is where it's changed from the point of view of, oh, we have to wait for them to come to us. No, we actually have to go to them. So Bunnings is a great place where you go to Bunnings, we set up an activation there, and we have our displays, we have our flyers, we have the people on the ground that actually can have a conversation. Now, we've had that relationship with Bunnings now for nearly 3 years. We've seen over 3,000 men in that time frame at the different Bunnings stores that we've gone to. And the amount of powerful conversations that begin right at Bunnings is incredible. Why? Because they feel safe, they feel supportive, and no one's judging them. I'm here at Bunnings to do something that is for me, but ultimately they feel safe and supported so that they can then say, oh, I'm not feeling the best when it comes to this, or I'm having this issue, what do you suggest? And they're more open and free to open up about the issues that they have. That program has worked fantastically well.
Right. So they would say that to one of your volunteers, and then your volunteers would then go on to suggest that they contact various...
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
right.
absolutely.
Okay.
And we can get involved in that way. And obviously we stop at a point. If it's a very, very serious issue, we then are obviously providing them the specific contacts when it comes to medical contacts, Lifeline WA, those organisations that then will take it to the next step.
Right.
But I think that is the step that is missing currently, or the connector for a lot of men. They don't understand where do we jump on to get those services.
Exactly.
It's all good and well to refer to a website and say, okay, well, this website's got everything. But I'll tell you right now, with the conversation that we have with a lot of men, they won't go on those websites.
No.
And it's about that power of the face-to-face
Yeah.
and saying, here it is, this is the opportunity for you to actually get the help that you are required to get and need, and then we can appropriately find those services and supports for them.
All right. So this is available for every man.
Absolutely.
You know, this podcast Beyond Labels is intended to give information to everyone, and not only people that are on NDIS
Yes.
or are our participants here as an NDIS provider. It's for everyone. So we need to make that very clear that they can reach out to you. So now, how they can contact you, how they can get in touch with you.
The easiest way normally, there's a couple of methods. They can definitely email us. So the email is info@mtalk.com.au. So that's our generic email. Anyone that has an inquiry, and they normally, if they've been at one of our activations and they want to inquire further about the services and support we provide, they can email us direct. We also have our Instagram and Facebook socials that we operate. We put a lot of our events on there, what we're doing in the community, and all of those sort of aspects so that they can connect and understand when we're doing what. So a few of our programs, for example, we run this fantastic program, again, for all men, but also women as well. Because we identified that this is really important to have the community conversation around men's mental health, which obviously involves women as well. So we run this wonderful program called Move, Breath and Connect in Scarborough. It's every fortnight, and it's run by a physiotherapist. He's brilliant. His name's Cam Watkins, and it is absolutely fantastic. Because what that provides for the community, both men and women, is that ability to understand more about their own well-being, not only physically but mentally, but also the power of coming and connecting and creating community. We began, when we started this program 2 years ago, with 8 people. Now it can be anywhere up to 100 that suddenly appear. And I feel that that's where we're at as a point, as a society, that we're needing that importance of connection and being part of something.
Yes.
And there is a big loneliness epidemic sweeping through a lot of men in particular, where they are not connected, they're disconnected for whatever the reason is, from families, from friends. Now is that need more than ever to create these communities so that they can feel a part of it, not be judged, not have anyone put a stigma or stereotype to them, but they are there to be a part of something and know that it's okay to belong and that you're contributing as well.
Yeah, and I think post-COVID, with a lot of businesses who, people were operating from home, a lot of businesses have kept going using that format, and I think there is no reason to get dressed, get shaved, go somewhere, see people, meet people. So I think that disconnection is far greater than it was a few years ago.
I totally agree. And we need, that's again, as a community, we need to work with this. If we know that this is now the new norm in relation to working from home, what other sort of Pandora boxes is that opening now? Particularly when it comes to mental health.
Yes.
And this is where we have to be very aware of what those aftershocks are from COVID and what the new world looks like.
Exactly.
And how do we then help? I think that's really important, particularly from a men's talk point of view. We're about to launch in June these wellbeing hubs for men, one in Scarborough and one in Busselton. And this is going to be a great opportunity for men and the community to access these support services in a beautiful environment right on the beach, both at Scarborough and then also at Busselton near the jetty there, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So for everyone who wants to contact Paul in Men's Talk, now you can see his business card with all the contact details, email and address. And we're going to put also one of the flyers so they can have more information. I saw your group doing an activity in Scarborough, and that's why I contacted you, because I wasn't participating. I just saw the physio that now I know is a physio doing an activity for everyone, and it was very empowering.
It definitely is.
So for everyone, and we there are a lot of stigma around mental health, men's mental health. So it's important for them to feel safe, to feel listened to feel heard. That there's someone there waiting. You know, if you need help, the help is there. It's hard, and you can tell how hard it is for not all of them maybe, but for some of them to take the first step of contacting you.
And I think that's we call it platform building. So if we create the platform, then the men and women can get involved and actually can then go, okay, I've been involved in the movement, breath and connect, for example. I went to Bunnings. We did a series of dinners last year called Meat Master Dinners, and it was all around meat. And we know a lot of men love meat, and I know there's vegans out there as well. And someone was saying, are you going to do a vegan dinner real soon? But the Meat Masters was great because what it had a dual purpose. It had an education about that meat, and we had a butcher, Vince Garaffa from Mondo Butchers, amazing man, and does amazing work in the mental health space, particularly with Lifeline WA. Okay. Now, he came and lent his time to educate people around the different meats. So we had pork and we had lamb and we had beef, and it was incredible. It was great. But what that also did was to bring men together in that circumstance to not only talk about the cuts of meat, but also to talk about their own mental well-being. And a lot of them loved it. Yeah. And that's those type of platforms. Creating the platform to bring men together or the community together to be able to understand and say, in the sort of subtle way, you then introduce the mental health aspect. It's like a friend of mine said, and I love this analogy, right? When you're trying to teach a young child to eat vegetables and they look at veggies and go, yuck, then you have to think of another way that you can introduce vegetables to them. So what you do is you throw it into the spaghetti bolognese. So it's almost like you're hiding it in the bolognese sauce, but then they eat it and go, well, this is nice. Yeah. What you've done there, and in a similar way, if I use that analogy, this is what we're doing here. Where we're throwing in the veggies into the bolognese sauce. This is what we're doing with the platforms that we're introducing, so that men can sort of think about it. And it's not a trickery. What it is subtle messaging. Yeah. You will never have it where you use a sledgehammer approach and say, you must go to a doctor or you must go to a psych to get mental health support. A lot of men will run the opposite direction. It has to be that they have felt comfortable enough to come to that decision themselves. Yes. And we help them do that. And I think that's the key.
Definitely.
That's the key.
Definitely, yes.
So, and what ages are the people that your institution helps?
All ages. We have an approach, and we've termed it womb to tomb, because, it all begins when that boy is in his mum's womb, and even before that, with the father becoming the father, and how he reacts to having a child and what it's what is associated with being a parent. And it's important to understand that 1 in 10 fathers in Australia suffer some postnatal depression, and that's not necessarily a known fact, but it happens. And that's not to diminish women and what they may be going through, but it's actually to show that this is the other side as well. And that we need to once again look at it in a much more open circle way and say, how can we help both parents when we are looking at this unfortunately as a potential issue, as postnatal depression is. So how are we looking at that? And then it's following what we call a line across that boy's life, teenager's life, young adult, middle-aged, old age, and there's transition points there too. It's like, what about when I leave school, a young man leaving school and looking at the world and going, what do I do next? That's a transition point. What about when he becomes a father? That young man becomes a father for the first time. Another transition point. And what about when that man wants to retire or is facing retirement, another transition point. We have to look at that and be a little bit more smarter at looking and saying, what are those points in that man's life that potentially, or where a lot of these issues surface? How can we then help them in those transition points?
Yeah, so we've seen, and we were talking the other day about the life of a young person, this case, man, leaving school, and they've been supported, all their lives through school, and then they don't know. It's hard to know what you want to do at 18 with the rest of your life. So, what are those ways to support them that you provide with Men's Talk?
I think it's really important to identify what those issues are. So if we, for example, look at men with a disability, for example, they have obviously the issue that they have to deal with in relation to their disability as well as being a man. So they have to look at it at both levels. And then how do we then accommodate for them? Is it looking at what their career pathway is? What is their purpose? It isn't necessarily about just going, okay, as in the past it's been, well, we'll just put the people with a disability to the side and sort of unseen is the problem solved. That's not the case. And we have to, as a society and as a community, be able to understand that where is that integration point for that young man with a disability? Where can he go? Or that young woman with a disability? Where can they go? How can they be actually contributors to our society and our community? However, I've got an example, and I love this example. I was approached by a mother. She's a speech therapist, and she has two girls that are high on the autism spectrum. And she was adamant that she wanted her girls to be able to be contributors to community. So she helped set them up a business, and the business is candle making. And those girls, actually, that's what they do, and it's a micro business that they've set up. And I'm like going, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Why can't more and more, micro businesses, particularly of that level, when they're doing that, that's an opportunity for many people with a disability to actually get involved in. And it's a positive contribution. It's something that they're able to be passionate about because it's what they are in themselves passionate about.
Exactly.
Not just throwing them a menial task and saying, well, you can do that because that's the level you're at to complete the task.
Exactly.
We have to go beyond that. And, they should be afforded the same respect and also the capabilities in relation to doing and being a part of a small business. And if it's their own, and the girls, that run this, and the mum that runs it with them, I love that.
Yeah.
So, Paul, do you think, I know obviously there's a stigma attached to men's mental health. Is it getting better? I mean, I know that a lot of large companies are really recognizing this, and they're offering things like paternity leave, and the big companies have an in-house counselor for people to go to, and I feel that it actually is somewhat improving, but you're far more on the ground with this. Is it actually getting better, or are we going further back in respect?
We definitely are moving forward, but it's not at the pace that we'd like it to be moving.
Right.
It needs to be faster. What that then means is like literally the boots on the ground and the services that need to be there.
Yeah.
If we look at specifically men with a disability, I think there's a long way to go, and I think there's a lot of missing steps. And I think there is opportunities that can be explored to provide them better support and services, particularly in the mental health space. Because at the moment, it's very, very scant, and it's not where it should be.
Yeah.
And if we look at it just in a holistic way, change is coming and change is happening, but it's happening quite slowly. And that's then really going back to governments and organisations and saying, okay, we obviously see that there is a need, and we see what the statistics, because they don't lie, the statistics in men's mental health in particular are quite harsh. So what we need to be doing is supporting and looking at what we call prevention and early intervention services that actually can help those men in whatever circumstances they're in to be able to support them.
Yeah, I mean, early intervention is essential for everything. So, and you're doing a holistic approach, and how everyone. Do you have any special program for any particular community? I don't know, immigrants or Aboriginal people.
And we do those customised programs, like for the Indigenous, like for multicultural communities. But at the same time, it's also that ability for integration. And I think that movement and breath, as an example, we're going to have a group of, we're just connected with an organisation called Buddy Up. And we're going to be providing them, they work with men with intellectual disability in particular and learning difficulties. And we're going to actually provide them an opportunity to actually come down to the movement, breath and connect and participate with us. Because I think that is where we need to be doing. It's not about replicating services and saying, oh, that's for that special group. Yeah. Or, look, there will be times where that will be required. But what I would hope is that ability that we can, as a community, provide in what I call integration, where we are working all together and saying, here it is. This is for everyone, no matter what.
Exactly. That's where, these Beyond Label name comes from. That's why this is a space for all abilities community.
Correct.
So we will reach out to them as well to have them over.
Yeah.
It's as more information that is available for everyone, the better. So.
And I think that's really important, when you work, and Buddy Up do amazing work with young men with intellectual disability. It's incredible. They have gyms, they have a mentor service that they provide, and they do some wonderful things with those young men. And it's all about getting the knowledge out there, and also the fact that they are offering that particular service. It's so important.
And how Men's Talk members can benefit from that.
And see, this is where we can say, look, if a mum approaches us and says, or a dad, and says, look, I have a son with a disability, he's just about to leave high school, we don't know what to do, because like you said previously, there was a lot of support there, but once they get into the adult world, it becomes less.
Yeah.
And when we get that from parents that are very concerned about the future, because they are very much supporting their children as they should, but when they are not there, who then picks up the slack, so to speak? Who is going to be there to support their children?
Exactly.
And that's a concern, and a lot of parents worry about that.
Yeah. So what about the boys in primary school, finishing primary school? I've got a son with physical disabilities, and bullying is a big thing now. Fortunately, he hasn't been, a target from anyone because of his disability. But I have heard families, mums and dads talking about, how they've been bullied and have affected their mental health.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we as a society and as a community, we have to understand what inclusivity is, what diversity is, and we celebrate that.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes us a community. It doesn't make it by ostracizing groups and saying, as what was traditional. In the past, we had those that had a mental health issue, they were locked up in asylums. Those that had a disability, well, they were shunted across to the side and put to places where the rest of the community didn't see. Those times belong in the past, and that's where they belong. Now is different. And now we all have to be, and it is all our responsibility to understand and to celebrate diversity in all its forms. And know that everyone has something to give. and to provide, and that we all can work together on this. It's not about a silo approach. It's all about that collaboration. Collaboration for Men's Talk is absolutely key. It is going to be the key that unlocks a lot of issues.
So, do you do, or do you know where parents in this particular time can go and get education about, what signs to look for? Because sometimes, on the outside, the kids look great, but then they feel that they're not being accepted or feel different, and...
I think that there is definitely support groups like that in the community that actually can help with that. It also helps. There's a great organisation called Helping Minds. Now, Helping Minds is specifically for those carers, guardians, parents that have a child or someone in their family that has a mental health issue. Now, that can be a very lonely experience for the parent or guardian, that they think, oh my goodness, I'm here by myself dealing with this. And it's important for them to understand that there is actually organisations and support places that they can go to that totally understand what your circumstance is and then can assist you and help you with that. As well as for those what we call parent support groups that are operating, because it's not about a sort of a solo approach. It's all about, well, if I knew that there's another parent or parents out there going through what I'm going through, then we support each other. And I think that's, once again, it's about connection. It's once again about community. The more we do it, the better the outcomes can be.
And on the same similar thread, you said, you go to Bunnings and that's where you have a lot of men. And it's obviously proved very valuable. What about going into schools, especially some of the boys, more private schools, and actually talking with them? Because I feel like that, that age group, that senior school, there is a lot of bullying, there is a lot of misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
And I don't think they're not educated about mental health, and all the schools aren't great at that. Would you consider going into the schools, or to talk, or have you looked at that?
Yeah, definitely we have, and there are already great organisations doing great work in the school space, which is absolutely fantastic. And we're obviously, as Men's Talk, we're looking to collaborate. It's not for us to reinvent the wheel and then just go, okay, well, we're going to add another program in here. What it's probably more important is to actually support those programs that are already existing, and then go, they've been doing the great work that they have over many years. How can we support them? And there are, like I said, there's a lot here in WA, which we're very fortunate to have, that are doing that, what I call in the school space, to educate them, both at a primary school level, but also at a secondary school level. And examples of, like, for example, rites of passage for young men. That would involve the very things that you talk about bullying, about respect in relationships and partnerships, and respect for women. There's a whole myriad of subjects that in that rites of passage for you as a literally a teenager going into manhood, what that even actually looks like. Absolutely. What can I then be looking at, and what should I be doing from the point of view of having good male role models that actually can show me this is how it works. And this is not just with having those. We've just run a program called the Gen Connect program, where we had a series of men from a retirement village go into a high school and do some beautiful connection between the two different age groups. So it was an intergenerational connection. Yes. So we had a 93-year-old talking with a 16-year-old. How powerful is that? Yes. And when does that happen in the community?
Absolutely.
If you're lucky to have grandparents, great. But for a lot of these young men, they don't. In fact, a lot of them don't even have any male role models at all.
Yeah.
How can we make it better for them? How can we provide the positive moral modelling that then helps them go through the transition that they are? I think that's important.
It is very important.
And we lack that. We do lack that transitional pathway, and, schools have a role to play in that, but we as a community should be actually more active in providing those type of opportunities.
What would be an example of about what you're doing? What can the community do? What would you suggest that we do better to help with that transition?
Look, I think this is where we're hearing the stories, and those stories from the different aspects of communities. And it's not just a certain group, but we open it to everyone. I think the Gen Connect one is a great example of that. There are a lot of men, particularly in retirement villages, at the ages that they're at and feel like they are worthless and they have no contribution to community or society whatsoever. But is that a problem that we've created as a community and society? I think it is.
Yeah.
And it's like going, oh, well, once you're 60 or 65, you don't have anything to contribute, because we have ageism that is an issue in this country, if not in the world. It's a world of the young, I hear. No, it's not. If it's the world for a young, we have issues and problems, because what we're then doing is leaving all the people that have life experiences and important life experiences that they can then transfer to the next generation. And the stories that can be told, the experiences that can be had, and that's been proven with the Gen Connect program. This is important things that we need to do as a society and as a community. And if we do that, guess what? We have a better society and we have a flourishing community.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a stat that actually I remember seeing late last year. The NIB Foundation did a survey of 4,000 Australians on their well-being. This is Australians. And what came out was, out of 10, they had to give what they thought their well-being was, how they thought their own well-being was, particularly from a mental point of view. The average came at 6.1. And I'm like going, 6.1? We live in Australia. We don't live in a country that is war-torn, that is having significant economic issues. We live in a pretty lucky country. And we're not faced with any of those issues. And I'm like going, 6.1 out of 10? That's very low.
It is very low and frightening.
And I'm like going, if that's what we're thinking, where are we going wrong? Where are we going wrong? And obviously there are spaces that we could be working on. And once again, it is about us working together. We say that we are stronger together, and that is absolutely true.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it takes a village to raise someone, a child.
And I think we've moved away from that. I think we've said, whoever that is in that village, whether it's the elders, the mothers, the grandparents, peers, a father, a mother, whatever it might be, we've sort of moved away from that. And I think we need to come back to that, particularly from a community sense, because I just sense that there is a lot of that work that needs to be done.
And you spoke about working with the men's African community. And I think there are so many migrants here now, and they have lost that family connection. Now, for African people, it's the same as Indigenous Aboriginal people. Family connections are extremely important, and they've lost that. So that they just don't have anyone to go to, and they're just floating around on their own with no support whatsoever, and it's very hard for them.
That is very difficult, and we think, oh well, the crime rates in the African community are rising, and from the immigrants that are coming out and all of that. Well, how are we tackling that, and how are we looking at that, and going in as a community and looking at what is missing? And this is what I'm really excited about with what the African community have done with forming their own men's group to be able to work on these very issues, particularly with young men.
Yes.
And saying, well, where do we need to be able to be providing the resources, support, services for those young men to say, okay, that's what's missing from them, and what can we do to help them? Because it's important.
very important.
How they integrate into
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah. And it's not about them staying separate and we staying separate and like I said before about creating the silos. Silos don't work, and silos are an approach that is, oh, well, I'm doing my thing and he's doing his thing and she's doing her thing over there. That's not community making, and it's definitely not connecting.
Yeah.
Definitely isn't.
Yeah. It is. It is very interesting. And we want this to everyone who wants to be, in contact with you.
Yep.
If they want to do volunteer, if you want to do volunteering,
Yes.
work with you guys. We have people that we support that we can think that, they can go and do volunteering. They will love to be involved in something, as important as talking about mental health, men's mental health openly. So as we said, we're gonna get your contact details. And everyone can contact you if they have any question. They can contact us. They can comment. You'll see the comments, and we can answer to any question that everyone or anyone has. And they can email to beyond@bloomingsupport.com.au. If we need to connect anyone with you, we will, and it's not that we're gonna charge anyone. As I said to you, this is a free, safe space. So I want to thank you for coming, for talking, for being so passionate about, because it's so good to see. We're very passionate about what we do too. So it's just to get the message across, and everyone is welcome.
And that's what this is all about. And thank you for the opportunity to come in today and have this, because it's really important to have these talks. And we're very open all the time to be able to have these discussions and hop on to podcasts. And we also have a regular radio program on 6PR, and that's every fortnight on a Monday. And that's at 8:20 on the Todd Johnston show. And the segment is called Men's Talk, and it is talking about all the issues around what men go through in their lives. And we talk about a particular subject on the night, and we have callers that ring in, so there's another avenue for people actually to come in and go, oh, it's a mainstream platform that they can actually phone in. And they can connect to whatever the support services they need.
Yeah, that's good, because we or Beyond Labels is on YouTube and also on Spotify, so anyone can subscribe and listen to watch the video or just listen when you're doing anything and send information, emails or whatever. Yeah. So thank you again. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
Yeah. So and we'll invite you again if you have anything else to add. There's always information adding up.
And programs, new programs. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and have that discussion, because I think it's important. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And good luck with your new hubs opening up.
Thank you.
That's very
we want to
exciting.
see
That is very
photos.
exciting.
So, for the one that subscribe in our channel, we'll put photos and show everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.